Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. So it is Friday, yippee However, it might be a Friday, but we're going to be talking about the power of saying no. I should have said it this way, but some days you feel like no. It's rebuilding boundaries and reclaiming our energy. So, we are going to explore something that sounds so simple, but it's often incredibly difficult: saying no. For many of us, especially those of us who are givers, helpers, or people pleasers, no can feel like a rejection, a failure, or a missed opportunity. But what if I told you that saying no is actually the foundation of reclaiming your time, your energy, and even your identity, and I will say on top of it, your own space? Today, we're diving into the power of saying no, not as a barrier, but as a bridge that to our most align ourselves. So that bridge will align ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. Blah, blah, blah. If I'm doing an Emma soup of word on a Friday, yippee-ki-yay. But seriously, let's think about it, because why no is a complete sentence. We don't owe everyone an explanation. Saying no doesn't mean we are selfish. It means we choose to be intentional. Start by giving ourselves permission to protect our space. It is so true, because if you think about it, how many times have you wanted to say no at work, at home, wherever, and you were afraid that, or you felt the sense of guilt? You know, they make you feel guilty if you if you said no. And that happens to me. I was doing there's a project I didn't want it to do, and I had that person looking at me, and I said, I have the right to say no on that. And they're like, yeah, but why, but why, but why? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I am not interested to do it. It's too much time. It's time consuming. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like it. That's the reason I'm saying no. I do not want to do that project. But people will do the guilt trip, the threat trip, especially at work. You know, they feel a little threat, or they're going to hold it against you when it's like, no, you need to set your boundaries. This is something that I have noticed. I worked on my boundaries. I think I did an integration on this one too. But I started to rework on my boundaries, because I didn't realize, you can be nice. Nice doesn't mean we're stupid. It doesn't mean you're an imbecile. You can be nice and kind. However, when you get people roll over all of your boundaries and reduce it to be like a Swiss cheese. I like to do the reference of food, people, so be used to it. But it looks like a Swiss cheese. It's not even anymore a boundary, or it's wide open for business. May as well put a sign on there and say it's open for business. Who cares about my boundaries? Who cares about if I have the time to do it or not? But it's really, the understanding of, okay, you need to ask me, because I'm going to say yay, I'm going to say nay. I might feel guilty for 5 minutes because I say no, but if it's for my space and for my highest good, then I'm going to look at for my highest good. I'm not going to look at you and what serves you, but what is necessary for me. Little story, because I like to share stories. When I was working at the Club Med, yes, I did, and I got the pictures to prove it, but I'm not going to show them to you. No. But I'm inspired this Friday, people. I was working when I was in Portugal, actually, and one of the hairdresser, we had it over there, super nice person. He was from Belgium. I think we were in the same plane when we arrived in Faro. I believe so. And nice guy. But the entire season, I had to teach him to say no because he was saying yes to everybody, and he ended up to burn himself every single time. So finally, mid-season, close to the end of the season, he was standing on his own 2 feet and saying no to everybody, which was awesome. I'm like, good job. I said, you have to work. And I was tough on him, but I said, you have to work, and said no. If you don't feel like doing it, you cannot be a people pleaser. Okay. If you do that, you're giving your powers away. You don't have to give your powers away because you want to be, everybody to like you or want to be your friend or want recognition of some kind, because this is a waste of time. But you have to put those, I'm not going to use barrier, but those boundaries, because barriers sound like you cannot go in there. I don't like it, but those walls either, but those boundaries around you for your own space. I share the last relationship I was in, the individual in question, and I would not mind to help people. I'm not here to save you. Let me be very, very clear for people. When you work with other people, and I learned it way long time ago actually, and I always applied it to everything I'm doing, especially when you're in a relationship. I'm not going to be here to save you. You better to have your own shit straight up, because I'm not your savior. I'm not going to be your little mama. I'm not, no. I don't do this. This is not who I am. You have to learn to save your own self. Okay? If you want to play the damsel in distress, it's your monkey, it's your story, off you go. You got nothing to do in my podcast if you want to play the victim. But when I'm looking at a relationship, and I was in the last one I was in, a nice person. I'm a nice person. I'm like, I had to deal with my own shit. If you think about it, yes, I'm say a few words, but I'm not angry. It's just Friday, people. You don't like it, move along. But I was in the middle of, okay, my house burned down. I went through the dark night of the souls. I don't know. It was the year of the world swallow myself inside. It was like everything crumbled, everything went to shyster from the beginning. In February till the December, was October when the fire happened. So November, and I met somebody there, and I wasn't looking for somebody because I had something else better to do. I'm gonna be honest. It's like when you deal with a catastrophic event, unless you really have time to go wander and looking for a date, good for you if you have time for that. But my mind was on the safety of my pups and myself, for us to be in a safer place and move and continue to move along and get into the condo every day than I did for like 2 months or a month and a half, because after that I had to travel back and forth. But every day going through the rubbles, and it was November, so imagine it wasn't like sunny 70 degrees. However, move along on this one. It was, so met somebody, and I'm nice, I don't have time, I'm gonna read you for 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay, fine. Very interesting person, and it was just casual, nothing. I'm like, I don't know, I'm dealing with my own crap, and yeah, okay, you want to have fun for 5 minutes, if I have time, I'm fine with that. However, being nice to somebody doesn't mean that you're going to take advantage of the person. And when I moved out from the place where it wasn't, I would say, the best ever in the world, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was a safe room and space for me and the pups for a month. But when I transitioned out of it, which this is what we needed to do, it's part of the process. When you move out of somewhere else, you go one step, you go a leg up. And the behavior of that individual changed. It went from somebody very kind to somebody half paranoiac, thinking some very weird stuff, and realizing very quickly he mixed and started to transfer his paranoia or whatever happened in the past to me, which wasn't good. But at the end of the day, it was looking at rebuilding and starting to say no. And I start to put my I was going to say walls, but my, how would you say that? Boundaries back up, which I did actually. And the first instinct of that person, when you start to say no to somebody, and I started to say no for a lot of things, and not only to him, but to other people as well, who thought my home was a shopping store. When they every time they came in the past, they will help themselves, and I will give things away because I could care less on some of the stuff. I want to say this is material things on some stuff, and I knew I could give it away because that wasn't a big deal for me. So when you're looking at those individuals who help themselves, think they have a full access to you, and I will show you the latest one as well on this one, and you start to say no, then you become enemy public number one. You become the devil. You are mean. You have changed. You were not like that before. This is the kind of crap people are going to try to use to make you feel guilty and bad. And that's this flat out manipulation. So what was interesting when that individual was starting to say that to me is, and one of the things I did, I refocused on the facts. Not on his emotion, not on the crap he was throwing to see what would stick or not, and not entering that dance of, I'm a victim. No, you're not, sweetheart. You're not a victim. You want to put yourself as a victim, but when I said no, it's no. So what I did, I deconstructed every argument he tried and put him back in his place, actually. And I did. I was sitting, actually, we're doing at the restaurant. The last time I was in a restaurant where he invited me. And I just put him back in his place. And he shut it up very quickly, realizing you're not monkeying around with this person. But the guilt trip doesn't work. And it comes a point where you need to look at who do you have around you and what are they doing to your own space. Because they're violating literally your space. And every time you said yes, are you going to give them something? Are you going to help them for the time consuming? It's not looking at, oh, well, what they're doing it for me, actually, or they never helped me, which he did that. He was a little bit of a coverted narcissist, and I kind of nailed him because he was pissed. At the end of the day, he was pissed off. And I realized this, his pattern that he was helping in his mind to save me. And I'm like, okay, buddy, I don't need to be saved, by the way. I'm just fine the way I am. And I definitely don't need somebody else to try to control what I do, because I am the one who's dictating my own life. So one thing what he was doing was, I'm going to come and help. I have a project. You're my project. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm nobody's project. You got it totally wrong. But I realized very quickly that was the pattern. So when you're looking at situation where you start to send no, the first thing is you're going to hear, and I'm telling you, and I'm pretty much sure you guys going to say and shake your head and say, yeah, you're right, Eman, on this one. You become the devil. You change. You're mean. You're arrogant. I don't recognize you. You used to be nice before. I'm nice. I just learned to say no. And the more I said no, the more they got pissed off. And I'm like, well, you know what? I like my peace and quiet, so I'll have you go, boy, boy, boy. And that's what I did. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at your own space. And where we learn to overgive, because one of the issue is learning to overgive. And as a kids, you can see, and we observe, we are sponges. As kids, we learn, we see, we watch, we replicate what our parents do, actually, or the people around us. So when a kid start to lie, it did not come up because they were watching TV. They watch parents. Their behavior is based on their environment. Now, if somebody, one person who is in the family is an overgiver or a pleaser, it will influence you. So it could be cultural, familial, or societal. Many of us were raised to put others first. Unpacking those internalized messages is the first step in unlearning the guilt around boundaries, because it's a guilt trip. No matter how you want to put it, it's a freaking guilt trip. And trust me, when you start to stand your ground, and I had to relearn to do it because, I don't know, I became I don't want to say I became nice because that sounds like I was devilish before. I'm a freaking Gemini, people. So, but still, I'm always been kind, but I always been firm. And you come to a point you just want your peace and quiet, and you maybe feel or expect people to do the same. Unfortunately, some people are not wired the way we are, and they will try to take advantage of you in any way, shape, or form. Okay, you have to read them. You give them opportunities to change their behavior or course correct their behavior, but the first thing you're going to see in their behavior is the victim. And when you're looking at where we learned this, then we have to go back and look at, as a kid, what did I observe? And the guilt trip will come along. This is always what it is. So signs that, we need some signs that we need to better our boundaries. One, we're exhausted, or we feel resentment, anger, lack of time for ourselves. We are burned. By the time we want to do something for ourselves, we are burned out, and we're not going to move our ass from the chair or the sofa because we cannot do it. We don't have the energy. And if you're constantly running on an empty, your yes may be costing you more than you realize. That is for sure. Last year, I encountered somebody here who's a volunteer, and I noticed right away this individual would cross boundaries. And she did, actually, over and over and over, until I put my foot down and she played the victim, literally the victim. And she tried to manipulate the situation at the end, thinking that it will work in her favors. But you know what? The universe sees everything, and will rebalance and fairness. But when people are not listening to you, even though you kindly let them know, you need to give me my space. I don't need you to try to tell me what to do when I know what I need to do. Neither do I need you to text me at 5 o'clock in the morning with thinking I should be doing this, and that, when I already function on my own without a problem. Then this is where I started to do that, and actually it's extremely liberating. I started to block people from accessing me, meaning cut them off from my social media, from my phone, from my email. They don't have access to me. And I can guarantee some people spiraling down into madness, resentment, hate, to the point I'm now enemy number one, and continue to cultivate that hate and that resentment because they don't have access to me. The problem is when people don't understand boundaries and still do not want, even for one freaking minute, respect that becomes a problem. And we need to be strong enough to do that. I'm going to say this also on this one. There are a lot of people who, you're done with a relationship. I have a question. Hey, I'm going to say that, and I'm going to ask you the question at the end. I should ask at the beginning, but I don't care. I cut and I will block anyone that is not for my highest good. And I'm talking exes. I am talking people that were around me, then I walked quietly out. Now, I'm curious about you guys. Did you remove access to an ex? Because I noticed something that was on TikTok a while ago when somebody complained about his girlfriend, that was ex-girlfriend, that was texting him, blah, blah, blah. And he was complaining about it. And my first thought was, and I did actually, I said, why on earth, if it's your ex and you're done with it, you would not cut the entire cord, meaning block that person from your phone and your social media? Seriously, if you're done with somebody, why would you still hanging in there? Then all of a sudden that person start to text you and then you're complaining. Where are your boundaries here? Or are you not done with it and you want that person to chase after you? What is the deal? But you have to set your boundaries. That was something that I saw yesterday actually, and that's good. And we're talking about this. John Cena, if I'm correct, has a house in Florida, and that was Bella. When she moved in, he had a contract with her that if he broke up with her, she had to move out. Or if they broke up, she has to move out of the house immediately. And guess what happened? When they broke up, she moved out of the house immediately because that was his house, which makes sense actually. That is a smart move actually. So now let's talk about the script and the strategy for saying no. Now that I talk about this, I hope you can relate to one of my stories. So let's talk about how to say no gracefully and firmly without burning bridges. I have burned, even I'm going to say that to you. If you're dealing with somebody who's have what do you call it, a victim mentality or is resentful, you might be burning the bridges, even though you can try. And I've done it with people who have understood and some who still don't understand and burn the bridges, which is okay. But you can use a phrase like, that doesn't work for me right now, or I need to honor my current priorities. That are powerful phrases you can use. So I'm going to repeat those two. That doesn't work for me right now. Somebody wants something or ask for it. And the other is, I need to honor my current priorities. So this should make them backed off without pissing them off. And that you can use at work and at home. But you really need to reclaim your energy. Seriously. Because when you stop overcoming, it's not overcoming, it's overcommitting. You're committing to things and you should not. You begin to show up more fully in the things that matters most. We regain clarity, vitality, and a sense of sovereignty over our lives. Think about this. When you stop to overcommitting things that you should not be doing, okay, then you showed up actually in your life. Not anybody else's, yours. This is what it's all about. It's showing up in our lives and being able to do things for us. We need to regain clarity. We need a vitality. We need a sense of sovereignty over our lives. Because every time you said no to what drains you, you're saying yes to what fuels you. Boundaries aren't walls. They are doors that only open for what's aligned. Protecting your peace, protect your power, and trust that the right people will honor your no. This is where you're going to clean up the weeds, actually. When you start to say no, you will have two kind of people who are going to show up. One will understand and say, not a problem, we can do it another time. Whenever you feel like, just let me know. And you got the other one who have a meltdown and a guilt trip. The meltdown and a guilt trip needs to go, off you go, because you're somebody who's going to continue to suck the life out of me, and this is not what's happening right now. Understanding, rescheduling, doing it another time, or not at all, that's what it should be. So this was our podcast for today. I like this one actually. It's a very interesting podcast for today. But think about your boundaries, because this is something you cannot lose and you should not. And I rebuilt mine. I am saying no to what I don't want to do. And sometimes I do feel guilty, but I'm like, no, this is something I don't want to do. I will express and say that. I've done that on projects that I don't want to do. And it's like, it's too much energy. No, I don't want to. I don't feel like it. I'm not inspired. I'm not going to do that. So think about it. Think about the time you said yes and the time you said no, and see how people react, because the reaction will tell you everything you need to know about those individuals. It doesn't matter who they are. They can act very kindly and understanding, which is what you want. You want people to understand, oh yeah, not a problem. Or they will have a freaking meltdown. And trust me, they can apologize later on, but this is how they work on guilt. So, all my love, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here?
Stargazer